Sten, semi-machine gun. We go down to there. If you get earplugs, some of you might want to put your earplugs in. Watch out for hot brass. Another thing, just stay behind the yellow line, please, not cross the yellow line.
All right, hi everybody. So this is a Sten Mark V. There were 5 variations of this for the British military during the Second World War. The first was a prototype phase. It was expensive. They were slow to make, so those weren't really issued. But the very first was a Mark II. It had a removable barrel. It was pretty quick to clean and adjust. Later in the war, they went to the Mark III, which was all one piece. If you damaged it, you'd have to throw it away. Mark IV was a pistol, but that wasn't really issued. Again, another prototype. But when the war was kind of going into the Allies' favor, out came the Mark V. It was specifically made for the airborne or the Royal Commandos. It's a submachine gun chambered at 9mm, which is the popular German round. It was popular for the French resistance. It's very easily concealable. Again, this one being the Mark V, they took time to make it a lot nicer. They added the infilled front sight, a bayonet lug, wooden furniture on it. It had a foregrip, but most troops kind of ditched that once they landed. Again, it carries a 30-round magazine at about a fire rate of about 8 rounds a second. So the reason why England went with these Sten guns is they cost about 11 pounds to produce. Anyone who had a garage was making these things. In today's money, that's about $140, $150. Compared to the American Thompson, which cost about $65 back then, which in today's money is about $550 to $600. So it was cheaper to make. You could get them out to the front troops, especially after Dunkirk when England was, lost all their guns. This was a pretty quick substitute for that to get these men fighting again. So I won't keep going. I'll give you a presentation on how it shoots, and then we'll keep on rolling. So I might just go over here a little bit. I'm having issues with it, sadly, but normally that's not supposed to happen. It's being a little temperamental right now, but yeah, you can have it in semi-auto. You can keep pulling the trigger. Again, there's a bar select to make it a full auto, and again, you get about 8 rounds a second. So I'll try and work on it, trying to fix it for a little bit. But until then, if you guys want to keep on moving along, you can.
Basic rifle for all infantrymen. All theaters of war. This replaced 1903 bolt action rifles. It's a semi-auto. Carrying 8 rounds in the end block. These rifles use all throughout World War II, both theaters, in Korea. Now we have the Thompson machine gun here. So this is an M1A1 Thompson submachine gun. It replaced the 1928 Thompson. It's only a stick magazine instead of the drum mag like the Chicago typewriter. Usually issued to squad leaders, assistants. 45 caliber ACB. 30 round stick mag. Not very effective long range, but right up close. So this Cold War is having a lot of effect on the submachine guns. unfortunately, it's being temperamental right now. So this is the Winchester 1897. This one is set up as a right gun. Most of them, by the time wartime came around, they were switching over more to the Model 12 where everything wasn't exposed. They were issued more Pacific Theater. The ETO never really had them except for a few MPs here and there. Now, POW camps, fuel dumps, ammo dumps, basically anywhere you need a close range security. Yeah, and not penetrate. There is no trigger disconnector like a modern 870 or Mossberg 500. So as long as you hold the trigger, it will go bang every time you slam it forward. Six rounds of double-aught buckshot makes a mess in a hurry. But it is very effective at close range work, what it was designed to do.
Okay, so this is a 1903 Springfield bolt-action rifle. It was originally designed, obviously as the name says, 1903. Originally it was adopted with a blunt nose cartridge called 30-03. Before, in 1906, that cartridge was replaced by what we now know as 30-06. This particular rifle would have been used during World War I, and then with a few minor modifications, it was used during World War II as more of a designated marksman's weapon, or you see more use like in the Pacific Theater for some Marine units and stuff in the 1903 Springfield. So obviously, like I said, this is a bolt-action rifle, unlike the Grand you saw earlier. Fires a little bit slower, but has a little bit more accuracy. Yeah.
Take off the coat. This is the standard issue M1 rifle that almost all GIs were carried during World War II. Except it's got this little adapter on the end here, which comes right off. And goes right back on. And this adapter turns it into a rifled grenade launcher. Now, a rifled grenade launcher was an early version of what we know as a modern grenade launcher, and it was designed so that infantry could have something to do against armored elements or larger infantry elements without having to have a bazooka or some other anti-tank weapon. And it fired these kinds of grenades. It fired grenades that looked a lot like this. Now, what you do is you stick the grenade on there, and in this grenadier's pouch you would also have blank rounds, which is what we've been firing all day. But in an actual war, you'd hope you'd have live rounds. So the grenadier would be carrying the blank rounds. Load the M1 with blank rounds. Fire it. Yeah, it's a grenade. It'll get close enough. anti-tank rounds, which would look like this. Well, the anti and the tank are a little bit of an exaggeration because they didn't do much. There's stories of German tankers who would count how many of these would hit the side of their tank before it would do any sort of effective damage. In particular, during the Battle of the Bulge, a Panther counted 15 of these rifle grenades bouncing off the side before any sort of noticeable damage was done to the tank. So, it wasn't very good at its job, but it is the predecessor to the modern W. I'm sorry? So, I don't know if you can see it from back there. There's an arming wire right here. And you would pull it back and out, and that would arm the grenade. So it's similar to an actual regular hand grenade with a pin, except it's on a tube here rather than on the pipette. What? A lot of these were actually impact detonated. Yeah, it depended on when in the war we were looking at. I have an example. Can't find it right now. It's probably in my bag. Some of the anti-personnel mines actually, or the anti-personnel ones did have reviews, but a lot of them were also
What I have here is what's referred to as the M1 carbine. This is the light rifle's little brother to the M1, and what this was originally meant for was for mortar teams, machine gun crews, pretty much anybody with heavy weapons to enable them to essentially, and it was meant to replace sidearms because they were thought to be obsolete. Well, as GIs were carrying them, they realized these are really handy light rifles. It's only it's about 4.5 pounds versus the M1 at 9 pounds, and the Thompson at about 11 pounds. And for anybody that has been in, they understand that your ruck doesn't feel that bad at the first half mile, but about 4 miles in, it feels like you're carrying an elephant on your back. And so it kind of changed to the point where these were given to radio operators. They were given to high-ranking POs. Major Marquis back there who carried a long arm in the field, more likely would have been a carbine. Actually, fun fact about these, the Germans would actually pick these up and use them. They loved these rifles. Because, semi-auto, most of their stuff was bolt action, they could find them, and ammo was everywhere because they could take a Allied ammo dump and they've got ammo for the next couple of months. Sadly, I do not have blanks for this, so I will fire it. Anybody have any questions? Yes, they were. Like I say, you had less chance of snagging on something, which is handy. There was also an airborne version of the carbines that had a side-folding stock. That, if anybody has watched, it's like they've heard about very, very ill-fated leg bags. Well, the leg bags for those were only about from the muzzle to right behind the receiver, and they could hug them to their bodies closer. But they would expand out, they shed like another pound off of it. Kind of rambling. What caliber was it? 30 caliber carbine.
All right, thank you, and for now, our finale.
Okay, so this is the M1919A6 machine gun. So this is the attempt at making the Browning 30 caliber machine gun a little bit more mobile and a little bit more easier to operate as an individual weapon with some assistance from ammo bearers.
So early in the war, these would be mostly an A4 configuration. They would not have a bipod. They would not have a shoulder stock. They'd be mounted on the M2 tripod, which we've got another gun on an M2 tripod down there. Now these were replacing the M1917 Browning, which we used in World War I and pretty heavily into World War II, which was water cooled. So it had a big jacket around it that they have water in to actually keep the barrel cool. The 1919 variant has a perforated barrel shroud and it is air cooled. So the advantage to that is this is lighter. You don't have to carry water around with you. The disadvantage is this barrel gets very hot and then it's not very easy to change. So you did have to monitor your rate of fire and your ammunition consumption so you don't burn your barrel out. So this one's mainly designed to be fired from the front, but I've actually made it fail, which when the barrel's hot, I can use that handle to carry it with. If I need to, I can stand up and move and shoot with it. You see it belt fast? Belt would be in 250 round increments, but they did make you cut down shorter ones because it's a little awkward to move when you have 250 rounds on the gun.
Shoot. Tracy, listen.
Alright, that concludes our weapon demonstration. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tuesday night, I'm back here at 1 o'clock. So come here early, get a good spot. We're having a big battle out here. So come early, get a good spot. Enjoy the rest of the day in the camp.